Hey, welcome back everyone. So in today's video, I'm going to show you a couple inking techniques, digital inking in Procreate. So I've got this spawn art that I'm working on. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely tickled with it. Like I was like digging it through the process. I was happy that I was drawing it on paper and traditionally it felt good. Then I'm like looking at the way I did the arms and it's, kind of lackluster as far as like, Spawn's a pretty intense character, right? I'm still going to finish it though because I think there's a lot to be said for working through the ones that you don't feel are your best, but then you also don't keep giving up because that can be a really bad habit. And I think they all teach us something. So hopefully I'll be able to bring it to life in the inks and the colors. But that being said, there's certain things that I could show you on the channel here for texturing. I had a request to do, more suit design stuff, and I get it. Like a lot of times I just draw through things. I don't explain every type of thing, and it's hard to know what to explain at this point with I think 900 videos on the channel, which is nuts. But I thought like even something as simple as this wristband and the texturing that I do there, you could see that it's pretty scratchy and scribbly, but really what it is I already have done this sort of texture so many times. I know how I'm going to ink it. I actually started to ink it, so I'll show you a little bit of that first. I think I dropped a layer in between because I was working on fixing the hands. And so yeah, you see, some of the inks there. And I'm going to show you some of this, so don't worry. But I just want to show you that I did already start it. And this is really the process that I go for when I'm doing that texture effect. And I figure I could explain a little bit about that because the textures like this are super translatable to all sorts of other areas in your work. The suit design, it's pretty simple, but I could do a little bit of that. Maybe I'll ink this arm over again to show you how I go about sculpting the shapes and what I'm thinking about there. So let's dive on in. I know that was a bit of a long-winded start, but I kind of had to preface it with a little bit there. And so we'll go with, I want to start with this texture here first. So like I said, I'll do the texture and then some of the arm. I guess what we could do is just this whole arm piece. That would give you some of the anatomy. But I kind of like the way the lighting is on this arm. So we'll go back to that. But so with this band, okay, so I'll start with obviously just some line weight. By the way, I'm using this particular brush. If you need, I have a free brush set, totally free. Just type 0 during checkout. It does allow me to email you stuff, but I don't blast people. Once a month is usually the most that I'll send anything out. If you want the free brush set, it's there. You also don't have to get the emails. You can disable those. So, but you do have to type 0 during checkout. Keep that in mind. Or it's a pay what you want and you can donate whatever, So, sorry, I just got to say it because I know somebody's going to ask like, what brush you use? And, but let me also say this, that it's not about the brush. I mean, the settings do help people that are struggling with settings and things like that. And nice brushes do, they are fun to use. But it's about you as the artist. Your development is paramount. So keep that in mind. But all right, so first off, what I like to do here is you see those lines are pretty scratchy. And as far as the outline, I don't think much about it at this stage, but by the end of it, I do really get in here and beef up line weight. I usually save that for the end because I kind of use line weight as a, I don't know if juxtaposition is the right word, but I utilize it in relationship to everything else. So I don't like to put it in immediately because I feel like I'll need to go back and say, okay, if I want this bicep to be more pronounced, then I'm going to put this nice, let me really beef up the line weight and show you. I would do something like this, right? And really beef up that line weight and then thin it back down. And all of a sudden it has a little bit of intensity there. But again, I don't do that immediately. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm not going to put line weight around this band area, but I don't jump in with that concept because again, I feel like I'm going to have to be redundant and go back and fix it anyways or add more to it. But with these textures, what I like to do here is just play around with a variety of thick to thin. And so this is, you want to try to experiment with a lot of variation. The lines can have some curve. They can be broken up. What I love about this sort of texture is it's really kind of sporadic. And because of that, it looks very interesting, I guess. And you can just cut this at different angles. You can throw in all sorts of little imperfections and bumps, crack-like shapes where you just kind of angle it, in different directions. I don't know, it's almost like you can't get it wrong, but it's weird because there's definitely times I do it and it doesn't come out as good. I just go back and erase it and redo it, but now if you just go with these slight angles like this, I think that's a little bit more likely to be successful. It's not as hard to get that part right. It's when you start adding in all the other little breaks there. So even like to connect some blank area, you can do that. I'm going to pull back a little bit more. You can start with some that are tighter and then break them off and fade them out as you go away from the darker point. Yeah, and I really do think that this is a very versatile texture or effect. I don't know what you call it, texture or effect. See how when you back up, and I'm really too close, but see how when you back up, it just pulls together nicely and just looks like some tattered or worn material. And you can even skip through the lines here. Hopefully you see that I'm not trying to pull these nice pretty lines. I'm purposely letting them break up here and there. And again, just that little bit of randomness does a lot for it. You can even draw some shapes kind of around first. So you can do something like this. And then you can pull some lines in that shape. Trying to make sure my hand's not covering this. That's why I always typically do these screen share videos, because then I'm not worried about my hand in the way, but then I feel like maybe some of you need to see how I hold the pencil, how I move it across the screen. I don't know. You guys can comment and let me know about that, but I'm always torn with those concepts. I like to show the content in a variety of ways anyways. So hopefully it helps everybody that's looking for something different. So you can see that just, you can keep on going, you can keep on angling it. So now what I'll do, is I'll go up here and I'll block this in, but I want to show you another effect for that. And also keep in mind that you can kind of randomize the edge a little bit here. You can draw some little cracks around the edge. So you see I started with this overly clean line, and that's, a bit too clean, especially as I'm making something like this look more rigid, or not rigid, but worn and rustic, or whatever the word is there, just really worn out. Well, then I probably need to go back and adjust this, which I will. I'll go back and, a lot of times as I'm inking here, I just sample back and forth from black to white, and then I'll go back and like mess up the edge of something like this purposely, because again, if I'm going for a more worn and weathered look, I probably don't want this nice clean edge around it. So again, it's something I do. I go back and forth and add those sorts of effects. So the other neat thing, when you get to an area like this where you're like, well, I want this basically like this core shadow right through the center of this. I didn't want the whole thing to be evenly lit. You see it, our light source is coming from the power. I had to think of like two light sources. I don't know if I did it right because the light sources always boggle my brain box, but light source from here, radiating hitting the muscle here. Maybe the chest is kind of in the way, but not much. So the light catches the edge here. But this light source, which is supposed to be closer to the viewer, is radiating this way, which gives a little bit off the side of the muscle here, the side of the forearm here, and again, a little bit of light there. So what I thought is that, well, we at least need a shadow somewhere in here. Now again, I don't know if that's appropriate. I just, you know, I'm just like any other artist. I'm learning as I go. I'm learning on the job, and I learn by doing. So I place these things, and then after I get done coloring it or look back on it a few days, I usually go, oh yeah, you know, could have been better, should have did this, next time I'll try that. And that is the way that I do it. I think for lighting, I mean, you know, we can study lighting regular objects around the house and things like that, like life studies for sure. But when it gets into these crazy characters, I just feel like you kind of have to make a little bit of, you even have to make up a little bit of that as you go. But yeah, maybe I just need to do more life studies. How about that? Because that does make more sense. Okay, so over to here, you know, some different kind of cracked like patterns. Distressed look, you know, just bouncing around. The other thing is this, I really got to stress that, as I'm drawing something that's stressed, I got to stress that like breaking up the lines is super important. Not just for textures, but just in general. I don't know what it is. I wish I had a better explanation for this. All I can tell you is that whenever I sit here and I break up the lines, it does something for my imagination and creativity. I don't know what it is. I think it's because a solid line takes a lot of the maybes out of it, and it flattens things out. But a broken up line just allows you to see into it a little bit more, and that, as well as like the thick to thin broken up lines and two lines next to each other, they're just great for like cracks and imperfections and you name it. And it's not like, even though I'm going very random here, it's not like they're all good decisions. There's still ones where as I'm randomizing this, I go, well, this part doesn't look right. I guess that's the idea of it being truly random, is that some parts are going to look cool and other parts won't, and you have to still use your you know, your judgment and go, okay, this part's not working, let's go back and erase. And that's why, again, I jump back and forth from negative to positive drawing when I'm inking, back and forth, because I'm trying to find like shapes that work, patterns that work, and getting the, you know, the bad choices out there. So they're not all good choices, even though you're just randomly texturing. And the gaps make a big difference. You know, I can't just sit here and texture like this over and over and over, or I get a very different look. You see what I mean? Like it's like the gaps and the choices that you make to like space out these bits of texture make or break elements of it. But I think it's easier than most people think, like to texture. It's just, you just have to do a lot of it, you know, just doodle. Just be a doodler, right? That's the job I've always wanted on my resume. Professional doodler. Okay, so something like that. And I'm just trying to round it out so it's like, you know, some bigger pieces here, and as it gets to the edge, more shadows, more filled spots, and give it hopefully the, you know, resemblance that it's going around. But then what happens is this, to me, this shadow right here just looks like just kind of stuck there, like that sound effect, just kind of blobbed on there, and it's not right. It's too just, it's like a giant sticker or something. It just doesn't look right. But what we can do is to blend that, we can go with our whiteout. So I just do a 2-second hold. It's not doing it. Oh, it was doing it. Okay. And then just same thing. Break off into this area here. You know, these cracks that you draw on the side, they can tie into it a little bit. Maybe these cracks right here. So just kind of draw out some white out basically. Maybe some texturing on the very edge. I don't like that part. You can carry through some of these lines. And really you can even just extend what's here and blend it off. That's another way to think about it. Like just take what's right there in front of you and just break it away and fade it off. So all sorts of ways you can think about that. But really just even this whiteout kind of crack-like effect, these cracks, just, I don't know, they just work. And you can do that anywhere. I mean, I'll show you here in a minute. I use some of that even for the arm, which is this is going to be more like a smooth suit design effect with some little wrinkles and imperfections. But yeah, so it's a similar approach even to that. And then you see for here, I started with just, I was like thinking, well, what if I blend this off this way? All right, so you could do this and be done with it. That's like a quick and easy kind of thing. Let me see what else you could do here. You could really just continue off like the other side, more broken up little imperfections. And the thing is, you're still thinking about the round over, right? The radius or the curvature, the cylindrical form of this, even though you're doing all these little broken up little effects. At least that's what I tend to think about. So as I'm doing these gradations, I still want it to feel like this is rounding over, so they need to dissipate as they fade around this. If that makes sense. But so again, I don't have to do that one big curvature. I could probably even couple both of them, but that might look a little messy. I'm just going to do this. Just break it off, almost like I'm texturing bricks. Like you ever do bricks coming out of the shadows? Like you kind of texture each brick and then fade it up. I guess it's a similar thing to that. Or scales on a reptile, whatever. Kind of reminds me of scales now. Maybe that's a little distracting. And then the other thing I have to usually go back and do is look for the whiteout or the spacing between some of these effects and make sure it's not too distracting. So I'm looking for like the light gaps in between some of this, because I might want to go back and fill it in. And again, make sure to bump up these edges, wrap around this design a little bit more. But yeah, this stuff to me is like just fun. It's fun to texture. It's relaxing. I'm so relaxed right now. Can you tell it in my voice that I'm relaxed? You wouldn't want to do this all stressed out. Could you imagine? Just stressing, like listening to some thrash metal and trying to texture. I'm sure someone's doing it right now at this very moment. Okay, so something like that. I actually don't like this area. It looks a little bit too much like scales, but again, I could just go back, erase, and, bump it up and try it again. Let me see what I did on the other one, because this is a crazy thing too. Watch this. Even though I just did this, I'm sure I was heading in a very noticeable different direction. So if we take away this one and put this one there, I guess similar. I mean, it's different, but the same. I kind of like that one better, actually. But yeah, similar concept. Okay, so now I'm going to go over here and do this part of the arm, so it'll at least give you two suit materials to say that you kind of learned or studied today. And this will allow you guys to give me some feedback and say, hey, we like this, we'd like to learn more of that. Hey Rob, you really missed the mark here. What were you thinking? Give me all that essential feedback so I can make this channel better. Because yeah, that's the goal. And I was thinking about too doing a art giveaway, like an original piece of art. I'd ship it to you as long as I can, as long as it's some part in the world where I can ship it. So let me know what you guys think about that. If we could do like some kind of thing where you guys, I don't know, maybe share a video so it helps me grow the channel, and then based on that sharing, enter you into the contest to win an original piece of art, or something else. I don't know, maybe a gift card, whatever floats your boats. Just let me know what you think is a good idea, because I basically want to, I kind of want to see if I can kick this channel into gear a little bit more. Although I try to tell people I'm not too overly concerned with this channel as far as a success, but I want to help more people. So I don't know. It's kind of a catch-22. Like, yeah, I don't care about the metrics and all that stuff, and I just want to help people, but, the metrics mean that you're helping more people. Like, if they go up, you're obviously reaching and helping more people. So I don't know. And, I'm not a total philanthropist, if that's the right word, philanthropist. I try to make a living as I do this, so it's a win-win, hopefully, for everybody involved, that I get to keep being an artist and making a living and helping people find their own success, because it is out there. Like, I feel like people just don't have enough faith in their ability to make art and turn it into a living. But if you can do it and just do it for the love of it, that's awesome as well. So don't, never discount that. So here I'm just trying to place the vein as I do this. Now, the bad thing is I'm so used to adding drop shadows to the veins like this. I'm already starting to do that, but I'm going to lose that when I fill this. But it's kind of good to just be in the habit of doing what, you normally would do, I guess, without wasting too much time. But I want this feeling like we're looking at the vein through the suit, which I know is a bit kind of ridiculous, I guess, in a way, but it looks cool. And all I'm trying to do is sculpt out the light where it's more heavily lit on this side of the arm because it's closer to this power source. But I also want a dual light source even on the back because I just feel like it looks better for the coloring. And I'll always get in here and color brighter on this side. So you'll see I'll end up coloring this up and everything. But yeah, so I want a smaller light source on this side that just kind of traces the anatomy. If it conjoins the anatomy, it sounds weird, but if it hits this side, but then it hits this next muscle group, then I tie it together. And then sometimes I feel like you don't want to do that. You want to pull away from that, like this little muscle here. And I feel like that's further away and it's more secluded, so it would have its own shape. So I don't connect it there. And so to me what that does is that makes it look like this is more, pronounced, and then this is smaller. So there has to be that size relationship, especially when you're doing something so simple as a trace of the anatomy. You see, this isn't some fancy light source and rendering. It's pretty simple, but you still have to do it in a way where it it reads as, I don't know, bigger muscle groups, maybe striations or definition. Like you can't put this nice little thin line around everything. It'll flatten right out. It won't look cool. Yeah, simply that. Now, again, the other neat thing is that, this is really a cool opportunity to drop in some whiteout effects. So I'll show you that here in a second. You gotta love that about digital art, is that, don't get me wrong, traditional inking is the bomb, and that's really the best. If you can do that, do that. I prefer to do obviously what you see here, where it's traditional pencils and digital inks and a lot of digital drawing. But I'm trying to get more traditional art in my repertoire because it helps us to fight back on the whole fake art AI crap that's going on. And so when you're drawing traditionally, you're like, hey, check it out, real art, people, made by your hand. Now, I guess you could go, well, yeah, but you're inking digitally. That's not real art. But again, I'm coupling that with traditional art, so it gives me the editing capabilities of digital inking with some real art to show off, and who knows, maybe sell to the highest bidder at an underground auction where fan art is legal. No, I'm kidding. Which I don't actually care if people sell fan art. I don't think it's bad, but some people do. So for those people, I don't do it. For the people that don't care, I do it. I totally do it. Doing it right now. No, I'm not. Totally not. But just filling in these shapes, making some chatter, small talk. And so then as I get to the bottom of this, I kind of feel like a little bit of there's a little bit of a conundrum here. So as I mentioned, I want the larger shape on the top radiating, where the light source is, right? But you see I started to add a larger shape down here. Well, why is that? Well, because I'm always contradicting myself. But it's basically because I feel like because this is a larger muscle group than these ones right here, you kind of have to have a little bit of difference there, or it'll just feel like this is, like it doesn't, to me, it doesn't relate as well that it'll feel like that's a smaller muscle group. And it's just not. That part of the arm is pretty bulky. I don't know. So that's why I do it. There's the method to my madness. It probably wouldn't need to be that way, but I just wanted to explain it as such. And so up here, we'll get this part of the shoulder, we'll fill the arm in, I'll show you the whiteout effect, and then I'll let you get out of here because it's already a 21-minute video. How does this even happen? I am the slowest artist ever. Okay, so right there, that should be right now. Watch, I'm going to go to fill this in. The whole thing's just going to go, because I never seem to fill it in right. But let's hope. Let's keep our fingers crossed. There's enough of those shapes. And let's do a drag and drop. And of course, total blackout. Where did I miss? Here? No. Here? No. Where is it? Here. Oh, goodness. Right through the flame. Imagine that. Still missed something there. Oh, goodness. I'm just not being observant, folks. Okay, so I need to close off this vein right there. Might as well get this part in. I like doing these little veins that shoot off from the main vein. Okay, there we go. Let's try that. Oh my goodness. This is madness. No, this is Sparta. I did it in 2 places. Okay, this is getting embarrassing. All right, drag and drop. There we go. Whew. That only took about 5 tries. Did that fill in properly? I think it did. Oop. Don't delete it. Try it again. Yeah, that should be good. Okay, so now we've got the bulk of the arm. Hopefully we've got this feeling that it's lit a little more heavily on the one side. But so what I tend to notice when I fill this type of stuff, this type of rendering, is that it loses a lot of the detail that I was envisioning from right there. To me, I have all sorts of little doohickeys going on here that I'm thinking about, and then I get to here and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of flat. So, but it's easy enough to bring it back. I like to tone it down. I like to hit the wrong buttons. Okay, so I like to tone it down like this. And then I just take, a little bit of white out, or, erase, but I just use the white. And so what I do here is I pick back up on all those little details. I sculpt some of this stuff. I might even add a little bit of rendering like that, just to kind of spruce it up a bit. Again, with these line breaks, I think that stuff adds flavor, so it's better than just stopping something like that. I also like adding these little cross wrinkles like this. So you got them kind of intermittently through here. And these could be veins, but really they're not. I'm just thinking almost like, I guess this one would be a vein, but I'm thinking more like wrinkles. And what I tend to feel like this does for the work anyways, it just dimensionalizes it even more. Like it's like wrapping lines when you're drawing anatomy. It just, you wrap around this stuff and it just looks a lot cooler. It looks more dimensional than if you didn't have it. You could kind of draw in something like this and they look and feel like striations. All right, you can do all sorts of little things there. Again, little breaks here and there. Make the anatomy look a little more natural. Some rendering in the direction of the muscle group, something like that. You can bump up the veins a little bit more, like literally try to make them bumpy so that they read more like veins. What else? That's probably good for that. Let's bring that back to dark. Yeah, so to me that looks just a little more interesting. It should color up nice. And then I usually still have to go back uh, at this point and still refine this just a little bit more. There's some wrinkles through here. And then finally, I will go back and just render into these areas. There's some thick to thin lines. Cross hatch in there just a little bit. Little bumps here at the bottom. Some tiny little bumps. I don't think you need it everywhere, but it's yeah, it just makes it look a little more interesting. A little flavor. Okay. Some I feel like I put in there and I give it like a second look as I'm inking. Like I don't know if these ones make sense right there, but I'm gonna put them in there anyways since I already kind of established that in the sketch. And then again here, you know, you kind of really bump up that vein, give it its own kind of cast shadow. Broken line on the light source side. And again, I'll probably add, come on. Add a little bit more up here, and maybe a couple of these little lines going across. I don't know, I just feel like they make it look more interesting when I do this. That's why I do it. And a couple more little bits of rendering here. And that's really it. I mean, oh, and I would, you know, when I'm finalizing the entire artwork, like I mentioned, I go back through and I try to really push and pull shapes based on the line weight. So again, even though I'll lose some of this here because there's going to be a lot of this is filled in, I would add a pretty heavy shadow to the base of the bicep there. Something like that. I might even put a weird angle into the line because it just makes it, it's almost like drawing the eye. Like, hey, look over here, you know, and then like here, so it's putting it on the shadow side. It's sometimes bringing it out with an angle just to kind of point to the peak. Shadow side, and it's also flowing in and out of it. You can't just put a nice big thick outline around the whole thing. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but it generally will kind of lose its luster, at least for the style that I go for. But again, there's times when you want to really throw a nice big line around it just to see what it does. And yeah, it can make certain areas way more pronounced, which is cool. So there you go. So you got two textures to play around with. You got the tattered kind of effect. It's very versatile, applies to all sorts of things. And then you get that smooth kind of anatomy effect. And you know, hopefully you learned a little bit about light source there. I know it's not very in depth and you know, informative on that because light source can be so many different things. But hopefully it gets the gears going and you know, gives you some ideas. I'll share the video when I'm done with the artwork, but let me know what you think of today's content as well as what you want to see in the future. Good luck with the art and bye for now.